You're so lame, Ivan.
What?
How long have you been sitting there?
1 hour?
This one might be of interest. We'll see. About a month or two ago, my grandmother came up to me in the morning on a Sunday, or the afternoon, I'm sorry, and she asked me, "Were you awake around 7 o'clock today?" And I said, "No, I woke up at 9. Why ask me such a weird question?" And she had told me that something eerie happened that morning. And this is her story. I don't wake up until 9:30, about so, on days that I don't have to go to school. Okay, so I stayed sleeping. I never wake up in the morning, like earlier, okay? When I do wake up early to go to school, Monday through Fridays, I check up on her by like opening the door, seeing if she's there, and then I close the door and that's it. I don't knock, I don't do anything like that. I don't call that, I'm about to come in. I open, I check if she's okay, I close the door, and then I leave. I make on my merry way. That's all I do. She said that in the morning, it was 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning, and she was sleeping when all of a sudden she heard a giant knock on her door. Not a regular knock, but like big, rapid ones, like hard. Right? And that woke her up in the morning. She rose up to her bed and she just looked at her door. Both of us sleep with the door closed to our rooms. So she stared at her door and she just looked. She thought she was maybe hearing things or possibly, it was probably just a dream or something. So she just, laid back down to sleep since it was so early in the morning. Then the 3 rapid knocks came again. Boom, boom, boom. This time she rose up. She wasn't fully asleep, but this time she knew. She had heard knocking on the door. She had said, "Come in," and said it in a very confused tone as to thinking that it was me, but I never knocked on the door. Nobody was coming through the door. It was nothing but dead silence. She decided to lay back down again. Boom, boom, again. She stood up, and now she got pissed, wondering what's wrong. So, when she stood up, she goes and she opens the door, and there's nobody there. She looks around, and she thinks perhaps it was me still. She looks and she goes down the hallway and sees that the door to my room is closed. She opens the door to my room, and she creaks in and looks and sees that I'm perfectly dead KO'd asleep. There's no possible way that I could have knocked on her door and ran to my room, closed it quietly on wooden creaky floors, and went to sleep. We are within maybe a foot or two away from each other, and she's not that far away from her bed. Is she a slow person either? It's impossible for me to run, do that. By the time she even starts turning the door, run off, close my door silently, and go to bed. It's just not possible. She sees that I'm KO'd. She closes the door, and she goes and she looks at the door to the house. Locked. Everything's fine. She checks the windows. Locked. Everything's fine. Everything is locked and well in place. And she wonders, well, what could that be? I don't come knocking at her door. There's nobody else in the house. So who was knocking at her door? She goes back to sleep. About 7 o'clock again, she hears it again. She stands up. She opens the door. There's nobody there. Now she gets scared. Goes back into her room, locks the door, and she doesn't come out until I wake up. Later in the afternoon, she had told me that sometimes in the afternoons, right before I come home, which is around 3:30, 4 o'clock, she'll hear the door knob turning, and she'll hear keys jingling at the door, and she'll see the knob turning, and then the knob stops. She goes to welcome me, and nothing happens. Half hour later to an hour, I come home. She no longer knows when it's me and when something is just messing around with her. This happens on multiple occasions where she'll hear the door, creaking, and she'll hear keys jingling, but there's nobody there. Somebody care to explain that?